signs you're going insane. Just kidding. 10 signs you're going through a spiritual awakening. Number 1, you Google shit like spiritual awakening. In your early journey, well, I know this is true for me, I started researching things that at one point I had absolutely no interest in, and all of a sudden I started gaining interest in things such as the healing arts, aliens, entities, the spiritual realm. When you first start going through a spiritual awakening, all of a sudden it's like you have this urge to just research things on your own and take the initiative and go and, like, instead of believing what people have taught you, you go and research things on your own. Like, at one point in your life, someone probably taught you, okay, heaven and hell only exist and you better not question that shit. But what happens when you're in your spiritual awakening, especially in the beginning, you start saying, well, I know this has been taught to me my whole life, but let me go dive deeper and see what this is all about on my own. And then let me process it for myself and see what I feel about it. You start researching like crazy, and then you start seeing what really resonates with you and your deepest hearts of hearts. But yeah, number 1 is you just start researching like crazy, and you also start picking up reading spiritual texts. Like, you start getting fond of reading spiritual texts and understanding spiritual texts, believe it or not. And you just start opening up this new world of research. That's a prime example of going through a spiritual awakening. Number 2, you start sensing energy. And basically, when you're going through a spiritual awakening, it's like this whole new world is opening up to you before your eyes. So not only are you getting involved in researching things on your own, you're actually, when you start opening your perception of the world and your consciousness, and allowing your consciousness to expand, you expand your horizons to all these different possibilities. So at one point you may have not believed in energy or even could feel it, but you're starting to open up and be receptive of new ideas and new things. So you're starting to be like, okay, well, you're starting to find out about sixth sense and feeling things and knowing things outside of the normal senses. So you're being open to that, and then you start allowing yourself to be open and feel energy. So you start sensing and reading people a lot better. Yeah. Number 3. You stop believing in lies. So basically, and I know this is true for my journey, you just no longer, people cannot just tell you anything anymore. Basically, you become like this bullshit detector. Because like I said, once you start being open and receptive to, like, first of all, oh, I can think for myself. And then you start sensing really well, reading people really well, and trusting your instinct and your intuition. People cannot tell you shit. And if they tell you something, you use discernment. And you're like, okay, well, I only believe in things that resonate with me. That's what happened in my journey. I actually chose to, I know in a book I read, the 5th agreement, it's called Be Skeptical, but Learn to Listen. So basically, you're learning to only take things for yourself that resonate with you. And in my journey, and a lot of people go through this in their spiritual awakening, is they're bombarded with information everywhere. And even when you're researching, you have to be careful of what you're researching. Like, I only made it a point to look up things that were positive, in a positive nature, not things that were used to fear tactics like religion or even Kundalini. When I used to Google it, everyone was like, oh, it's such a scary thing. But I made it a point not to take upon myself to take in negative information. But basically, you stop believing lies, especially from just outside sources, TV, people, things. No one can just tell you things. You're just like, no, I'm going to find out for myself. And that's part of the researching phase. Number 4, you stop watching TV. And actually, in my journey, spiritual awakening, I didn't realize how big of a deal TV had on your consciousness and what you think in the world until my family actually was telling me, you need to stop watching TV. For one, it is not doing any good. It's taking you away from time you can be using on something else to better yourself. And 2, it is freaking brainwashing you like crazy. And once you become awakened and spiritually awakened, you realize, man, this is not beneficial for me. And like I said, if you're like me at all in any of my journey, all I wanted to consume or insert into my mind was things of positive nature and things that were uplifting and that will help me. So I cut off TV for good. And then if you watch TV, you start watching things like Ancient Aliens or History Channel. Like you start just using discernment a lot. And when you start a spiritual awakening, or when you get into a spiritual awakening, because you realize ain't nobody got time for things that are not beneficial. So yeah. Number 5, you fear you're losing your mind. So I remember actually a couple times in my early journey of spiritual awakening, which I've only been on for close to 2 years or a year and a half, you question your sanity a lot. Because, like I said in my previous video, What is Kundalini, your beliefs are being challenged. The beliefs that you've been taught your whole entire life is being challenged. And you're just like, what is what? What do I believe? What are people going to think about me if I no longer believe in this religion? What are people going to think about me when I think about sensing energy? What are people going to think when I talk about opening third eyes? So you fear that you are just losing your mind. And then, like, when you start getting this new information that resonates with you, but it's out of the norm, you're thinking, but what if people think that I'm crazy? That's a lot of what you're gonna feel like, because one you're not meeting. Chances are you're not meeting people who have been on this subject. You're researching it on your own, and then you're starting to be like, okay, this makes way more sense than this BS I've been learning, my whole life. And you're just like, whoa, what are people gonna think? And you start this battle between the old you and the new that's trying to come in, basically. So it's like this constant struggle of weighing out, okay, what's what. And then you're gonna fluctuate between that for a little bit, but that's another sign you're going through a spiritual awakening. Number 6. You become very depressed and introverted. Now, I knew this was true in my case, on my journey. I became very depressed, and I was already an introvert, but I became like deeply isolated from everyone because I wasn't sure what was happening to me. I wasn't sure what I was going through or how many people in the world was going through it. At the time, I didn't know how common it was to even have a spiritual awakening. I thought I was like the only one, basically. And basically it made me really depressed because, like I said in the previous examples, your beliefs are being challenged, and that makes you so sad because you're holding on to all these things that were taught to you was the right way. And when you no longer have this idea of what's right, you're just like, well, I no longer know what to believe in. So you get down in the dumps about yourself, about the world, about everything around you. And then chances are, if you were in your journey like I was like, at one point I was like, man, everything is a lie. And that kind of made me depressed because I'm just like, I felt so deceived and so like wronged. So at one point I was just like, man, forget everything. I'm going to stay in my room all day. I don't want to freaking get out. I was just in my mind. I was clouded with just a bunch of crazy stuff. I was depressed. Thought I was going, all these things. And you will hear a lot of stories where people just check out. They either check out and go to a mental psych ward or whatever. And like, because it could get this intense, like where you're just like, your mind is just everywhere. But yeah. Number 7, you start losing friends. So like I said, chances are, if you're the only person in your family or around your friends that are going through a spiritual awakening of the sorts like this at the time, you are bound to lose friends. You lose friends because you start changing, you start shifting. So it's like you're no longer on this the same vibration as you used to be. And it actually can happen that suddenly. Like, you would think spiritual awakenings are gradual, but sometimes it's just like slipping a rug under your feet, because like spiritual awakenings aren't like always planned or are this thing that you can keep track of. Sometimes like the universe is like, no, we're gonna do all this right now. Slip everything under your feet. Your friends are gone. You're on your own, exploring stuff on your own. But you just start losing friends because you start being misunderstood because chances are the things that you're into now, people aren't resonating with it like you are. They're just like, okay, Chris is on some crazy shit now. Let's just, leave him to that. But I wouldn't be afraid because this is just your reality shifting. So I would think of it as like you're in this transition stage, so you can meet like-minded people eventually, and people who are on the same thing. So it's just basically like cleansing out the old. A lot of spiritual awakening and Kundalini energy is just that. It's like the energy is taking everything that no longer resonates with you, that's no longer with your highest good, and just washing that shit out of your life. So it's bringing out the old to welcome the new, basically. Number 8, you lose your home or things start to change. So along with losing your friends, things shift dramatically. Like it's kind of like along with your thoughts in your mind, things just stop making sense. So a lot of times when things start resonating with you, the universe is like, no, this no longer benefits you, so we need to get rid of that. And the same thing can happen with your job or your home life or your relationships, is that like it's no longer needed. So again, it just needs to get out of your life. And the big thing with change is just like, Kundalini is just is taking you, is making you step out of your comfort zone basically a lot of times. And a lot of people have a lot of issue with spiritual awakenings is because they have a hard time letting go. A lot of our past conditioning has taught us to not embrace change and not to welcome change and go, explore and be greater in our greatest version. But what spiritual awakening does is it takes you out of your comfort zone, and it's like either you're going to come with me, or, I'm going to take you dragging, but you're going to come. Basically, it's that type of deal. But the more that you can go along with the energy and the changes, the less stress and pain mentally, spiritually, physically you're going to create for yourself along the spiritual awakening journey. It's kind of like God or divine guidance or the universe has this plan for you, and it's trying to push you along the right current. And if you go with it, it's a blessing. It's not easy, but it's a blessing. But if you go against it, man, it's going to be like hell on earth. So, number 9 is you want to be in nature more and away from people. So, basically, I know this happened in my journey where, man, I just always wanted to be in nature. I always wanted to just, even now, I just want to lay in the grass all day, stargaze, be a hippie. I just want to I just want to be in nature and just feel the freaking grass, hug a tree. It's just like you crave like higher vibrations and higher energy that resonates with you. So you long for that, like the more natural and simplistic things in life. And especially if you're in a big city, you're just like, man, this is so chaotic. I just want to go like live in a mountain somewhere and like be like a monk. But basically, you're just craving nature. You're craving what's real, things that actually matter in life. So yeah, nature becomes just very appealing to you in your spiritual awakening journey, because you just long to be at one with everything and to be away from all this things we've been taught our whole life. Number 10, you pick up new interests and hobbies like yoga. In my journey, I started becoming, once your mind expands to this new reality, chances are you're like your old conditioned ways of thinking, a lot of that, you did things that you supposedly used to like based on what people told you were cool or what people thought was okay to do. But when you start expanding your mind and expanding your thoughts and becoming open to these new things, you start getting interested in choosing interests that you may actually have an interest in pursuing. Instead of people telling you, oh, I don't think that would be cool to do, you're just like, no, you know what, I'm going to take initiative and go try this yoga class for months, or try meditating, or I don't care what no one thinks, I'm going to try it. And like in my journey, I started things like yoga, tai chi, all these things, and you're starting to just pick up like the healing arts, because you no longer, you stop caring what people think, believe it or not. That's actually another a part of spiritual awakening. You just start going with what you feel your heart is pulling you to. And yeah, so those are 10 ways you know you're going through a spiritual awakening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And keep in mind, there's many more things that could be associated with a spiritual awakening. But these are just a few that I chose to share. And I hope you guys got some benefit out of it. Comment, like, subscribe. Tell me what you think. And till next time.